Attention Niners fans and watch aficionados. Elevate your game with the Breitling Chronomat San Francisco 49ers Team Edition, now at Topper Jewelers. Celebrate the NFL's 104th anniversary with a Swiss-made timepiece that blends sophistication with sporting capability. Introducing the Breitling Chronomat, crafted in honor of the San Francisco 49ers. This 42mm marvel features a striking crimson and white dial that's finished with the iconic red and gold 49ers logo placed prominently at 9 o'clock. Limited to just 104 pieces, this special watch showcases your team spirit with distinctive colors and logos. Powered by Breitling's in-house B01 chronograph movement, it combines precision with a bold design. And with a 70-hour power reserve, 200 meters of water resistance, and a sapphire crystal, it's built for both action and elegance. Catch this exclusive piece at Topper Jewelers, where tradition meets the thrill of the game. But you'll want to hustle, because once these 104 pieces are gone, they're gone forever. Discover this 49ers edition, as well as other iconic Breitling watches, like the legendary Navitimer and Mighty Super Ocean, now at Topper Jewelers. And while supplies last, mention this ad to receive a special gift with your next Breitling order.
America's favorite place to watch football is Stadium Swim, located at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. Catch all the biggest games at a viewing experience built for sports fans. Chill in one of their 6 pools on 3 different levels for a perfect view of their massive screen. Plenty of seating options, from cozy daybeds to private, temperature-controlled cabanas. Stadium Swim. Book your spot today at circalasvegas.com.
It's time to get in the zone. With the 49ers Web Zone. This is the No Huddle Podcast with Al and Brian.
Week 4 is here, and hopefully the 49ers can start to look like the 49ers again. I'm Al Sacco, and this is the 49ers Web Zone No Huddle Podcast. We're part of the Odyssey Network, and we're ready to kick off Niners versus Pats with our guest. You can hear him on WEEI or his podcast, 6 Rings and Football Things. He's Nick Fitzy Stevens. Nick, thanks for the time.
Al, thanks very much for having me today. And I got to say, right off the jump, you're killing me here, because you're a 49ers podcast, which is, of course, the team
I know what you're going to say.
Grew up rooting for. Yeah. And then you got a Yankees hat on top of it. I mean, geez, Al, I know we're both hurting right now. We got 2 dinged up squads, that both sitting at 1 and 2. We each had dreams of being somewhere else at this point, although I'm thoroughly enjoying conversing with you right now on all things football. But still, you're trending up, and I'm, trending Patriots. So,
yeah, well, I'm actually live in New York. So go figure. Somebody who lives in New York and does a Niners podcast. And I'm not too far from Boston. So I have 2 things for you. One, Fitzy's a great Boston name. I mean, I talk about perfect. And 2,
you can't walk into a bar. The whole reason why I adopted that, Al, was you can't walk into a bar anywhere in Boston, the South Shore, North Shore, wherever, and either just say, "Hey, Fitzy, Sully, Murph," and have at least 1 or 2 people turn around and go, "Yeah, what do you want?"
Yeah. Bro? I was just going to say, I could be Sully today. Let's do that. You be Fitzy, I'll be Sully today.
And Murph is behind the glass producer.
And the second thing I wanted to say, when I was looking you up today, I saw you're a craft beer enthusiast. So am I. Huge into craft beer. Are you a Treehouse fan?
Oh, I mean, come on. Is Tom Brady the GOAT? Let's go.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorites. That's maybe, I don't know,
really?
Maybe 2.5 hours for me, maybe, where I am. And I go, we're getting one. There's going to be one in Saratoga Springs pretty soon. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, listen, New York State, not that anyone that's listening who came here for a Patriots Niners preview and a Behind the Enemy Lines peek wants to hear about my love of New York State breweries. But I'll go Prison City. I'll go Fiden's, all the good stuff.
Fiden's one of my all-time favorites. It's in my backyard. Yeah, I love it.
You're kidding. Oh, yeah. I have a feeling this is going to be the start of a beautiful relationship. And
I think so.
There may be something that men of our particular age do, which would be a hashtag beer swap in the near future.
And I'll tell you what, I think you said New York State and even Vermont, you go Alchemist, Fiddlehead, just the breweries here are, I think it's the best in the country. I really do. Anywhere. I know they Piney the Elder out. I haven't never had it, but that's a big thing out in California. But
Pliny the Elder is still a top 5 beer that anyone who's listening that loves beer knows. If you've ever made your way out west, when I went out and covered Super Bowl 50 for CBS Sports on their website, I had my first and subsequently my second Pliny, and I have been chasing a beer that good ever since.
Really, it's that good.
Just beautifully balanced.
I've had people tell me they're going to send it to me, but apparently they can't mail the beer, so I've never gotten it. So until
apparently you have never you've never done the workaround of this box contains media mail. I'm just sending my friend
listening to the show.
I'm sending my friend books. These books happen to be 16 ounces of double dry hopped goodness, but and I'll tell you what, You have needed different kinds of beers over the last couple of years to celebrate, and I have needed commiseration beers, but they still serve the same purpose, which is getting us through the day.
And nobody's feeling bad for you, though, after 2 decades in 6 Super Bowls. But I wanted to get into that because the Patriots, even though they're rebuilding, they looked feisty the first couple of weeks. They went against the Bengals. They gave the Seahawks all they could handle, and then they absolutely looked atrocious in week 3 against the Jets. So do you think the team is closer to what we saw in the first 2 weeks, closer to what we saw in week 3, or maybe a little bit in between?
Yeah, I wish I could give you the appropriate talk radio answer of like, Stephen A. Smith, like, oh, the dam's broken now, Al. The dam done broke, and the flood of pain and tears is coming the way of Foxborough, and they deserve it for letting the greatest head coach of all time, Bill Belichick, go. No, it's not going to be that, nor am I going to be here, thumping my chest, yelling like, week 1, they took the Bengals to the hill, and then they almost took the Seahawks to the hill. But, we'll just let the Jets game go because, teams are 3-24 against the spread after going to overtime on a Sunday on Thursday Night Football and whatever else. No, the Pats are back, baby. The sad reality is they're somewhere in between. They really are right now. Like, they're going to be competitive in most every game this year, so long as the injuries and attrition don't pile up. Eventually, the kid is going to get his shot, and Drake May will make things far more interesting. He'll have a lower floor. He'll have a higher ceiling than Jacoby Brissett. The poor guy just, looks like an 85-year-old man getting out of a rocking chair every time he picks himself up off the field turf. He is taking a biblical beating at this point. And the offensive line is, and I look at Trent Williams and I just have envy and lust in my eyes because, but my kingdom and all of my craft beers in the garage right now, just for a serviceable left tackle. But the Pats, they're not poorly coached. They're not poorly coordinated. They lack talent. You guys are the ultimate example of what happens when you marry up a good scheme and good coaching and proper fundamentals with elite blue chip level talent. Good things happen. And this is the way things used to work around here. Now the Patriots are a very scrappy, barroom brawling, blue collar, utilitarian workforce team that is just going to have to go out every week and challenge teams to a bar fight. And hopefully they hang in there long enough that they can walk home, usually with a bloody shirt, maybe missing a tooth, but with their pride. They're never going to light up the scoreboard. They're never going to do anything sexy, fantasy football, flashy. They'll be in it, but you're looking at a lower third, bottom tier team for sure.
So are you good with May sitting right now just because you don't want to put him behind that offensive line? Or do you think if they lose again this week is maybe week 5, the time to get May in? When do you think the right time to kind of put him in the lineup is?
It doesn't seem as though there's a proper first time for anybody's parachute not to open or to just be thrown literally, like I've never been to Europe. Oh, come on, let's go run with the Bulls in Pamplona. Like I thought I'd just go see Big Ben or the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
The Pats offensive line is so legendarily bad. Let me throw a couple quick stats at you. They're second in the league in quarterback pressures. Brissett and the Patriots have led the NFL in quarterback pressures and knockdowns 2 of the first 3 weeks of the season. And right now, you'll understand why the Patriots pursued your boy, who's been rather disappointing so far, but he's going through an extended, well-compensated preseason, in Brandon Ayuk. The receivers are so bad, or at least the offensive line is so bad, and Brissett is so adverse that they're on pace to throw for 960 yards to all of the wide receivers combined this season. So as far as I'm concerned, even though it would be miserable to put him in there right now, and you may get the kid demolition junkyard crushed, I can't see him in there soon enough. But it's such a risk reward proposition to do because you do, I know everyone looks to the whole David Carr mess from way back in the early 2000s with the Texans, and he just got sacked into oblivion and lost his way and his ability. My podcast co-host Andy Hart often says, you can't break a diamond. And if your blue chip is really diamond quality, then all the physical abuse and QB hurries that he takes won't affect him in the long run. But I fear for the kid's life. Did you see of those 8 dropbacks that he had against the Jets, the 2 hits that he took? Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Oh.
You don't want to put your future behind that. I totally get that. And you look at Brissett's stats, like you said, he's got 42 completions and 368 yards in 3 games. It's atrocious. But I look at the Patriots skill position players, and I almost don't think it's they're as bad as what they seem. I like Pop Douglas a lot. I think he's a good player. I think he could be with the right system and the right quarterback. You have Polk in there, and Stevenson's a good running back, and the Niners have had issues stopping the run. We know they can't pass protect, but can the Patriots get enough push up front to maybe, get the Niners on their heels in the running game a little bit?
See, I think there's a chance, and this may be, if there is no ideal situation for a team or ideal time for a team of the Patriots talent level to go take on a team like the 49ers, except maybe and or if the Niners are as banged up as they are and the Patriots have a week and a half to prepare. Aaron Rodgers said everybody before the Pats game Thursday night, he said, everybody hates Thursday night football, at least from a player perspective. But then when it's done, you love the extra couple of days off. So the Pats definitely need that extra time to game plan. They need that time to rest up. They need that time for Gerard Mayo to, be indecisive about the quarterback position and reveal a couple of new catchy phrases and murals at the stadium. It's probably the best time for the Patriots to try to pound the ball, go toe to toe with the Niners and hang in there. Because I think on a lot of other weeks, I think what the water levels would just be so disparate that the 49ers would if you guys were at max health, I think the Niners would probably flood out the Patriots. But like in any game that they're going to be in, it's not about the Patriots rising up to play at the level of their opponent, but rather dragging their opponent down to their level until the opponent escapes, like Seattle did in week 2. And in week 1, as we saw, Cincinnati, an absolutely brutal start to the season.
Yeah.
And they're just notoriously bad the first week. So yeah, I think they'll be able to run the ball a little bit. You guys are giving up like 4.5 yards a carry. They'll definitely run the ball a little bit, but I fear Ramondre's put the ball on the carpet 3 times and he's lost 1. It was literally taken out of his hands by Chuck Clark from the Jets. So I fear 2 big fears I have for the Pats with their inability to sustain drives is that one, Ramondre is going to be so damn tired he's going to put the ball on the ground every week or every other week just because he is the offense.
Right.
And 2, we've already seen our middle linebacker Jawan Bentley go down. Other guys like Keon White, Jabril Peppers have been dinged up. If the defense is spending 39 to 42 minutes on the field for every 60-minute football game, because Brissett goes 3 and out, 4 and out, the injuries are going to start piling up. So they got to find a way to control that clock and ground and pound.
I know it's tough to tell because the Pats are rebuilding. I mean, Kyle Shanahan only won 10 games in his first 2 seasons, but what do you think of Mayo so far? Do you think he's going to be the right coach for this team? Do you think he was a good hire?
I think he certainly knows football. Coming out of the week 1 win in Cincinnati, Brissett and most of the players said that, they all said they would run through a brick wall for him, that they love him, that he knows his lingo, and that they appreciate the fact that he relates to each person individually. He's a high energy, good vibes guy, and he knows the game. And the way he said it would play out is the way that it played out. I'd be curious to know if he told everybody like, hey guys, guess what? We're going to go down to North Jersey Thursday night and get our asses whooped. So get ready for it. Get ready. It's going to be a good time. Al Michaels is going to fall asleep in the third quarter like the rest of America. I think he's going to be a good coach. The question mark, and I think the defensive coordinator, DeMarcus Covington, who studied under him and was Bill Belichick's D-line coach for a couple of years, is also going to be good. People in the area, though, regionally have their questions about Alex Van Pelt, who hadn't really ever been hadn't called a plays except for when Stefanski had COVID and when he worked as an OC a decade and a half ago. Other people would like somebody flashier, like Zach Robinson in Atlanta, and it's not like he's got the Falcons offense high flying right now, or Cliff Kingsbury, but he's working with somebody a really good prospect and a more talented team with Jaden Daniels, who went off the other night down in Washington. I think Van Pelt is very conservative, and the way that they're trying to draft and bring along Drake May, it makes sense. I don't care what kind of offense AVP runs, as long as Drake May is prepared to play quarterback. If he can do 80% for him what Dayball did with Josh Allen, then I'll be good with AVP and Mayo.
I'm curious where the fans are with the Belichick thing, because clearly he did a terrible job as a general manager. I mean, you just look at the roster right now, and some of his coaching hires were also atrocious, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, he would take every friend of his that was still getting paid by another team, like Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, like, hey, you're still on someone else's payroll and you're a friend of mine who will bend the knee. Come on down. You're the next.
Come coach offense. Give offense a try.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
It's kind of comical.
A reverse engineered offense. Yeah.
Were people in New England ready to move on from him, or was it kind of like, really, you're going to get rid of Belichick? Or, all right, yeah, thank you, but it's run its course.
You know, one of the things, my primary role, I feel like, on the podcast, on the radio, and with the work that I actually do with the team as a game day host in stadium and beyond, is just trying to keep my finger on the pulse of Pats fans and how they feel about certain matters. And this has been the latest ever since Brady left. Like, everyone universally agreed that was one of the worst decisions of all time, as well as the Patricia decision a few years ago. But over the last couple of years, there have been all of these, I call them, like, they're like little fissures or chasms. I call them like little micro civil wars. And we've had the Belichick ruined Mac Jones. No, Mac Jones ruined himself because he's a pain in the ass. Patricia actually is too smart to have sucked that bad. Actually, no, he never should have called plays. And the latest one that's been lingering now for almost a year has been the whole, like, Belichick's got to go. You'll never find a better coach. He deserves to write his own exit and check. Yeah, but at the same time, look at the brutal rosters that he's built. And I maintain that as we've had all of these little online and tailgate and, cheap seats related arguments between Pats fans, I maintain that no, you'll never find anyone who understands the game better than Bill Belichick. I mean, look at Kyle Shanahan, the second Belichick, consciously uncoupled or mutually separated from Kraft and the Pats. Shanahan was on the phone like, would you like to come coach defense for me?
Yeah.
And Belichick was like, nah, it's all right. I'm just going to go work for Underdog Fantasy. Thanks. Then I'm going to hang out with my 24-year-old girlfriend on Nantucket and do 25 other shows with Peyton Manning, which is weird, but okay. To each his own. He deserves his victory lap. No one knows football better than he does, but I truly believe that the Pats moved on from him, not because of his lack of football acumen or preparation, but just because they wanted to get rid of the GM, Bill Belichick, so badly that they were willing to sacrifice the greatest coach ever.
And I feel like teams were scared to hire him because they didn't want GM Bill Belichick. That's the only reason that makes sense that he's not coaching right now. And we had Phil Perry on the show. Oh God. It was 2017 because it was after the
first of all, Phil Perry is a gentleman, a scholar, and a saint. And he's an infuriating human being because people shouldn't be that handsome, that smart, that nice, and love craft beer like you and I do, Al. I love Phil.
He was great. Yeah. I was glad that even at the time we had just started, I was thrilled he even came on our show at the time. But I asked him off air, I said, listen, is it Belichick or Brady? What do you think this is? And he said at the time, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, not that he's ever going to listen to the show, but he said, we talk about it a lot amongst, the people who cover the Patriots.
Lot.
He goes, and this was 2017. So granted, you're talking 7 years ago, but he said, I think it's Belichick. And looking now, at the time, I did not agree with him. I said, I think it's Brady. I think Belichick's a great defensive coach, but when you have a quarterback like that, it makes it go. And 7 years later, I think it's been proven right that Bill would have had his success anyway, I think, but Tom just puts you just so far over the top. Just look at what he did going to Tampa. He changed that whole culture. So I guess I'll ask you that question. Hindsight's 2020, but if you could have one of them back or you give one of them the credit, what would you say looking back at that dynasty? Would you take Bill or Tom?
Well,
I know that's a tough question, and maybe it's sacrilegious
it's okay.
in Boston.
I don't mind. I just wish I came prepared with an alcoholic beverage or two to answer that, or to drown my sorrows afterward. The beer fridge is never far away. You say hindsight's 2020, and then I think 2020, like, oh yeah, the rest of the world remembers that as the year that we all shut down for over a year. I remember that as when Tom Brady left Pats Nation and broke my heart. And on St. Patrick's Day, too, ruining one of Boston's favorite holidays on top of it all, Al.
Sully's pissed. Murph is pissed.
Sully, Murph, and Fitzy, they've never... Dude, we can't put it in our rear view. We've never been the same since.
This is so hard to take. It's so hard, dude, Tommy.
The heartbreak was just... I was inconsolable. All my local Packies got drained dry, guy. It's... it's hard. It's hard. I still, it's not that I refuse to say which one it was. It's just that it's so difficult to sort of, pick one. Like, they worked in such brilliant, evil, maniacal concert with one another. Like, they were so right for each other. They were both so dedicated, so super smart, so psychopathic in their devotion to winning, to overcoming the odds, to finding an extra competitive edge, to beating you, to just being great, and I love how brilliantly successful, how evil and spectacular they were together. But if you have to, if it comes down to picking one or the other, I'd probably say 60-40. It was Brady. He'll tell you, I'm not who I am. Well, first, without Mo Lewis, and 2 days ago we celebrated the 23rd anniversary of Mo Lewis Day. Much as I loved Drew Bledsoe at the time, that man's one hit on Drew Bledsoe on September 23rd, 2001 changed everything in the NFL, changed the lives of literally tens of millions of people. But the Belichick is incredible, a generational talent, and maybe the greatest defensive mind of all time, one of the greatest coaches. He himself would tell you Paul Brown is the greatest coach of all time, followed by Vince Lombardi, and then he's in the mix. But they'll never, Tom Brady, Mahomes is so physically gifted, and he's only now coming to learn defenses and be smarter and better about it. But Brady's will and Brady's drive, which is just, he was the tide that raised all boats. You can come up with the greatest plan in the world. You can write the greatest menu. If you don't have a chef that can cook it and then be a great front of house, then your restaurant doesn't matter a squad of hot sauce in the first place. So I come down on Brady, and I just wish Brady, now that he's back in our lives once again, would be half as Tom Brady in the booth as he was when he was on the field. Put it this way.
He might get there.
He's going to week 5. He's actually going to get the call. Give him time as well. He didn't burst onto the scene the way Romo did with Romo's, predictive text style of calling games. It's Joe Davis and Greg Olson on the call this week, which is probably good. But week 5, when Miami and that banged up roster comes to town, which is maybe when Drake May will finally start.
It's Brady's a great spot for him. Yeah,
it is.
All right, I'll tell you what. We got to get Odyssey to get us together and do a craft beer show or something. We got to figure something out. So get something going. We'll talk beers, man.
I would love to as well. And listen, I know this week is probably ticket. I would do that. I would do that in a heartbeat, Al. Absolutely. I do. I even have a beer review Instagram and YouTube channel where I review beers and breweries with one of the guys, Rich Keefe, my buddy who does the midday show at WEEI. We call it the Pint Club. I gotta have you on. We should do an IG live.
Absolutely.
And do a beer sampling sometime.
Yeah, I'll get some Fidens or something good, and we'll talk about it, man. Absolutely.
I'll send you some vitamin C and some Treehouse back, and life will be good, because I'll probably need it after. I'm dying to see, by the way, this Sunday. Without Debo, obviously Christian McCaffrey is visiting Ashley Manning's specialist over in Germany this weekend to get his Achilles tendinosis diagnosed. They have probably some sweet stem cells over there.
Yeah, a blood transfusion or whatever the hell he's doing over there.
Well, he's probably hitting up a couple Oktoberfest, and he'll get some stem cell. He should. Prost. You know what? Prost, McCaffrey. Live your best life, kid.
100%.
I'm big in on Brock Purdy. I still think the secondary can be had, and yes, you guys can get run on as well. Although Bosa may feed something wicked this Sunday. I'm just curious who's going to be the receiver that picks the Pats apart, because obviously Ayuk may be the guy that they'll put Christian Gonzalez on, but I gotta tell you, I've been so impressed with Juwan Jennings, and this is before he went off after that Super Bowl he had. I said, watch, this kid is going to be the best receiver on the Niners next year. This guy's got it.
Well, it's interesting because I think Brock's playing really well. Minnesota gave him a tough time, but Minnesota is giving everyone a tough time right now, and his numbers were still decent.
B-Flow's defenses are awesome.
Oh, he's been great. Just his scheme confuses people. It's been phenomenal. But I thought Purdy played great last week, and I thought he played really well against the Jets. He's starting to get a connection with Jennings. In Jennings, the past, when you go back to the playoffs and early in the season, he's really probably been their most consistent receiver. If Kittle's back, that's going to make a big difference because he'll be in the game plan. Ayuk just isn't himself yet. There have been some plays, like he was open for a deep shot towards the end of the Rams game that Purdy didn't throw for whatever reason. In week 2, Purdy was a little late on a throw in the end zone to him. If he catches those 2 balls, people are maybe thinking differently about him. But overall, he's been a little bit rusty. If they do put Gonzalez on him, which they probably will, it may be another game where Ayuk has 2 or 3 catches. And I think you're going to see, again, a lot of Juwan Jennings, a lot of him spreading the ball around. And if Kittle's back, I see Kittle having a big game. And they missed Kittle in the run game last week. If they have him back, Jordan Mason, I think, is going to do really well too.
Yeah, he's a powerhouse back as well. And if Kittle is back, and having watched the receiver series on Netflix, George Kittle skyrocketed to the top 10 athletes, celebrities, anybody's I would love to absolutely just rip a couple beers with any given night.
Yeah, he's great. Awesome. Yeah. He's good for the game. So, all right, Fitzy, we appreciate it, man. Appreciate the time. And yeah, we're looking forward to talking to you again, man.
I think it's going to be a great game on Sunday. It's 10.5 right now, 10-point game. It'll go 4 quarters. The dub goes to the Niners. We get another moral victory, and on goes the rebuild.
Yeah, take the Niners on the money line and maybe the Pats with the points. So, all right, Fitzy, good luck this weekend.
Cheers, Al. Thank you.
Worried about letting someone else pick out the perfect avocado for your perfect impress them on the third date guacamole? Well, good thing Instacart shoppers are as picky as you are. They find ripe avocados like it's their guac on the line. They are milk expiration date detectives. They bag eggs like the 12 precious pieces of cargo they are. So let Instacart shoppers overthink your groceries so that you can overthink what you'll wear on that third date. Download the Instacart app to get free delivery on your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
Thumbtack presents the ins and outs of caring for your home. Out, procrastination, putting it off, kicking the can down the road. In, plans and guides that make it easy to get home projects done. Out, carpet in the bathroom. Like, why? In, knowing what to do, when to do it, and who to hire. Start caring for your home with confidence. Download Thumbtack today.
If you're in the market for investment-worthy bags, watches, and fine jewelry, Rebag is the answer. Rebag is a luxury resale marketplace where each piece is carefully vetted and verified by experts to ensure quality and authenticity. If you're in the market, use Rebag to buy and sell finds from the world's top brands, including Hermes, Chanel, and Cartier. Head to Rebag.com to get 10% off your first purchase with code REBAG10. Shop today at Rebag.com. That's REBAG.com. And use promo code REBAG10 for 10% off your first purchase.
All right. Thanks again to Fitzy for giving us some time. And we're bringing my co-host, Brian Renick, into the show for our Pats preview. We also want to talk about Hargrave and a little bit about CMC. But before we do that, Brian, I have a little bit of a bone to pick with you. So I was talking to Fitzy. Okay. He's a big beer guy. And anybody who listens to the beginning of the show knows this. We're talking about maybe doing a beer swap. And I'm like, well, there were some people who tried to send me Pliny the Elder. Brian Renick, and couldn't because you can't mail beer. And he was like, well, you don't tell them it's beer. You say like it's whatever. So I know you tried. But maybe you didn't try hard enough.
That's where
I still don't have my Pliny.
Yeah. So that is where, and I did say that is where I messed up, is I went into that UPS and they're like, what's in here? And I was like, it's a beer. And they're like, don't tell us that. Like, we can't send it now. Like, you're not allowed to do that. And so I was like,
a bomb.
Oh, okay.
It's a bomb.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I could have said anything else probably. And they would have been like, whatever. But how dare you try and mail beer? But
I'll let it go.
I know that now. And the next time I come across some Pliny, I will absolutely send it out your way, because I know it's not something that you're going to likely get out there on the East Coast.
Never. And I'm a huge beer guy. And even Fitzy just said to me, he was like, Al, it's a top 5 beer that I've had. And well, now I want it even more, because I feel like this is
I'm on the hunt.
The lost unicorn that I haven't had yet. I need the Pliny. And I would say, like, I'd put my address out there and say, hey, anybody wants to send me one, please do it. But I don't know what I'm going to get in the mail if I do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to.
Yeah.
There's people probably. I don't want you to know where I live. Even if I give you a P.O. box or something, I feel like maybe there's somebody who doesn't like me that much and I don't know what they're going to send me. So,
I mean, based on some of the things that people say to us on Twitter, I definitely don't want people knowing A, where I live, or even B, being able to mail me something. So but I will be on the hunt.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. 98% of everybody are great, but that 2%, I don't want you knowing where
they're wild.
Anyway, I think I wanted to start off here. Javon Hargraves, brutal injury, tearing his triceps, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing that I thought of when I heard this is I don't think we're ever going to see him play for the 49ers again. I think it's it. I think that's it. I think we've seen the last game of Javon Hargraves, and here's why. The Niners signed him to a 4-year deal. And when you look at this deal, he was 30 years old. So when I read about Hargrave and we were texting, holy shit, like we're so excited. This is great. He's this dominant defensive lineman who had this coming off this great year. But when you really sit back and think about it, they gave $40 million guaranteed in essentially what is a 2-year deal to a 30-year-old defensive lineman. And what's happened is he had a down year last year, hasn't been great this year and gets hurt. It's a bad signing. And maybe if this is the last game that he plays with them, maybe one of the worst signings they've ever had. Because when you look at his contract, he would count $28 million against the cap next year. That ain't happening. Yeah. It's just not happening. If they cut him, this is according to Over the Cap. If they cut him pre-June 1st, it's still over 20. Oh, so it's $24.8 million cap hit. If they cut him pre-June 1st, if they keep him, it's a $28 million cap hit.
Right.
So
they still say $4 million. $4 million if they cut him.
But post-June 1st,
$4 million. Yeah.
Post-June 1st, according to this, it drops to $7 million. He's gone. Unless he restructures or they figure something out, they're not keeping him at that number. There's no way. So you basically got 8 sacks in a little bit over a year and a half. And again, you hate to see anybody get hurt. I wanted him to bounce back. They need him. They really need him this year. I wanted him there, but I kind of feel like that's it, man. I kind of feel like that's it.
Yeah. And it's a tough situation because like you said, I mean, they could cut him and save $4 million, or they could do what they did with Eric Armstead, make it post June 1st. But again, when you do that post June 1st, sure, it brings that dead cap hit down significantly because it allows you to spread that dead cap hit over multiple seasons, but you don't have access to that money until after June 1st, which means that it doesn't help you in free agency and things of that nature. And,
right.
And, when you look at this team right now, and we've talked about it, one of the biggest problems on that defensive line is depth. There's just none. There is no depth. And there's just no world where you're going to be able to get the level of depth that you need just through the draft. They're going to have to go out in free agency. They're going to have to sign some guys. And if you don't have access to that money till post June 1st, it makes it difficult. Now, again, you get quite a bit more money June 1st, $17 more million. But if you cut him pre-June 1st, then you get that $4 million that you could spend immediately if you wanted to, which again, not a lot of money, especially when we're talking about defensive linemen.
Yeah.
But we talked about it when he signed that it just really just looked like a 2-year deal that we did not expect him to be on this team in 2025. The problem is that they haven't developed any defensive tackle talent, in the interim. And so it's like, sure, you could get rid of Hargrave, but who's replacing him? Malik Collins is also a free agent after this year. Jordan Elliott that was a 1-year deal. The Yetter Gross Matos deal was ostensibly a 1-year deal. Like, they've got nothing in the cupboard when it comes to defensive line. And that is scary because
it's terrifying.
Again, we have already seen how much of a downgrade that group has been so far this year through 3 weeks. And, Hargrave had a great game on Sunday against the Rams, probably one of his better games as a 49er. And, that clip that I think I talked about it. There was a clip that, on that last play of the game where he just, it looks like he's given zero effort. But when you watch, and you mentioned it, when you watch, he hits, he comes up and he hits that offensive lineman, and then his right arm just immediately almost falls limp to his side. And now knowing that, he had a partially torn triceps tendon, like that makes sense. I don't know, but here's the thing. I don't know if it's the last we see of him this year, because it does sound like he'll have the surgery, if the 49ers do make the playoffs, and we assume that they will still make the playoffs, we're not sure if they're going to be a Super Bowl contender, but I at least I believe that they're going to make the playoffs. He could return then, so there might be an opportunity where he comes back as kind of reinforcements in the playoffs, which could be nice, obviously. But the question I have now is who takes over? Like, where Kalia Davis is still on it was either PUP or IR, I can't remember. So he obviously can't play this week. If it's either one of those, this would be the last week, and then they could reinstate him after this week. But like, there aren't even really any street free agents right now that I can think of that would come in and at least be, a decent, a decent fill in. I saw somebody on Twitter mention Ndamukong Suh, maybe. DJ Jones is a name that's out there. I don't know that I realized that he wasn't on a team right now, but again, anybody that you're bringing in, anybody could have had them.
I didn't know he's not on a team
already. Somebody mentioned DJ Jones.
I didn't realize he wasn't on a team either.
Maybe they meant via trade, but and I'll look it up right now. But yeah, it's
I think DJ Jones.
It's not looking great. League. It's not looking great at all.
Well,
okay,
never
mind. He is still
he's going to see more.
He is still on the.
I was going to say, yeah,
he's still on the Broncos. So maybe that would have been via trade. Then. That would have been via trade.
Yeah, if they're trying to get him via trade, but I mean, they've been trying to kind of replace him since he left, really.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a terrific run stuffer for them, but yeah, it's going to have to be probably Jordan Elliott's going to play some serious snaps for them. But again, the defensive line, I'll get into some stats later on the defense, hasn't been good. And I don't think it's going to matter against the Patriots, but it's going to matter soon.
At Alma, we know the connection between you and your therapist matters. But if you're already feeling stressed and burnt out, the idea of trying to find a therapist you really connect with can be overwhelming. That's why Alma's focused on helping you find the right therapist for you. When you browse their online directory, you can filter your search based on the qualities that are most important to you. Then you can book a free 15-minute consultation call with any therapist you're interested in seeing, so you can get a feel for whether they're the right fit before you commit to a full-length session. Alma also makes it easy for mental health care providers to navigate insurance. That's why 95% of therapists in their directory accept insurance per sessions. So you can find care that's affordable without stressing about the paperwork. You want to talk to someone, but not just anyone. Alma is there to help you find the right fit. Visit helloalma.com/therapy60 to schedule a free consultation today. That's helloalma.com/therapy60.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Another thing that's terrifying is the news that Christian McCaffrey is going to Germany to look into treatments for his calf slash Achilles, right? And anytime you're going over to Germany, it's terrifying. So I thought I'm going to do a little bit of research on this. Kobe Bryant did this in 2010 for his knees. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The treatment that Kobe sought out was, I'm probably going to mess this name up, Regenokine, which according to WebMD is a type of regenerative medicine that uses your blood to treat joint pain. So it kind of sounds like you're like a vampire, kind of, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe he's going to be a vampire. Anyway, the serum made from your blood is treated in a way to produce an anti-inflammatory protein that may change your body's response to inflammation and improve the damage to cartilage. The reason you have to go to Germany to do this is because it's not approved by the FDA in America. But Peyton Manning, Tiger Woods, Tracy McGrady, Fred Couples were a few names that I saw who have, I don't know if they've done it or went out there to look at it or whatever. So it's not like he's going to some witch doctor somewhere in an alley. These are things that have been done by high profile athletes, but it's concerning in the sense that he's not getting answers. this has been lingering for a really long time, and he's found himself like, all right, I got to go somewhere else to try to get some other kind of treatment to get going with this. And it doesn't sound to me, if we're in week 4, we're about to hit October, he's going to Germany to try to get answers. Yeah. I don't think he's going to come back and hit the ground running and when he's ready to come off IR, or after the bye, like, oh, I'm good to go. Yeah, right. I came back from Germany, and this is a little scary. And this may sound like if you're not going to have McCaffrey until late in the season at best, and kind of like, is he ever going to be himself again? And this happens with running backs when they get, a lot of carries and get in their late 20s, but he's such a big part of this team, and they gave him the guaranteed money, and the expectation was in what might be the last dance. We thought we had one more year with him, and maybe we don't.
Yeah, I actually found this interesting. I follow his name is Jeff Mueller. He's a doctor of physical therapy. And the account that he runs on Twitter is mainly about like injuries specific to football, or specifically to fantasy football. He's got like 32,000 followers. But he posted 3 days ago, posted on the 23rd, about McCaffrey. And what he said was keys you need to know on tendon injuries and impact of injection. So what he believes McCaffrey is going over to do is PRP injection, which is platelet-rich plasma. And he says that tendon injuries don't heal quickly or well on their own due to poor blood supply, especially if there are micro tears or degeneration. One key issue with tendon injuries is poor collagen production and disorganization. Again, I don't know what that means, but this is what he's writing, leading to mechanical issues of the healing tendon. So he says issues with loading and risk of future rupture. He said PRP injections can provide a high concentration of growth factor-filled platelets that can stimulate collagen production and improve organization of that collagen production, leading to improved mechanical properties. He basically said, without help, your body finds itself in a perpetual inflamed state, which is where CMC is. He's flying to Germany because they have the ability to produce a higher concentrated PRP, which should accelerate healing, which I would assume he's seeking. And then he said, with these injections, some athletes have been able to return within 6 weeks of the injections, even though remodeling, meaning like the actual recovery, is still occurring through up to 12 months. He said, this is why I'm not viewing CMC flying to Germany as a bad thing. He's seeking an accelerated healing rate. Best chance of that is in Germany, not the US. He says, and I do believe this gives him a shot to return, but he says after the 49ers week 9 bye. He says in the week 10 to 12 range. And he says it really does
be late in the season.
Yeah, he says it really does depend on how the tendon responds to this treatment. But many of the outcomes have been very good, with a particular spike improvement close to 2 months, which would be week 12 if he's getting treatment starting this week. So again, a doctor of physical therapy, someone with a little bit more knowledge of the subject than any of us have. Mm-hmm. I found that interesting. Again, 3 days ago. So, I mean, regardless of what it is that he went to do, it's pretty evident that Christian McCaffrey is not going to be a part of this team until well into the second half of the season.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really appreciate what Jordan Mason has been doing, and I think he can continue to do it. He's a young guy. I think he can carry the load, at least on the ground, but they're going to have to figure something else out in the passing game, or allow Jordan Mason, like we've said, to prove himself in the passing game. Because again, this offense is built around Christian McCaffrey. That is what Kyle Shanahan has done when he has designed this offense. And without him there, that's a huge loss. And so we've already talked about how this defense doesn't look like it's going to be a top 10, top 5 defense. If it's going to be a 15 to 20 defense, then this offense has to carry this team. And without CMC, that's going to make it a lot more difficult. I've been very encouraged how Brock has played through the first 3 weeks, though. So to me, I'm not as concerned. I still think they can get to levels that, maybe not 30 plus points a game, but, in the 27 to 30 point range, I think would be, might be good enough to win enough games to make the playoffs.
Well, here's the thing. Well, before we do that, our producer, the great Spencer Ray, mentioned in our chat that Andrew Luck actually went to the Netherlands for his shoulder before he retired. So Germany is okay. If CMC goes to the Netherlands, we're fucked. So keep that in mind. So if you go overseas, it's not good. But yeah, you CMC wasn't going to be on this team after 2 years anyway, despite what everybody wants to believe, at least not in the way that he is right now. When you're a running back and you're in your late 20s, he's 28. He had 1 to 2 years left of high quality play. And then that was it. I'm sorry. Believe what you want to believe. He wasn't going to be 30, 31 years old and do what you saw last year, offensive player of the year. Just not happening with the wear and tear. So what I think this is doing is kind of speeding up the process of what the next window is going to look like anyway. And the Niners are going to get a look into, okay, we're not going to have McCaffrey this year. So is Brock going to be the answer? And based on what we've seen, and you know what, I'm going to say all 3 games because Minnesota's given everybody fits. Nobody doubts CJ Stroud is the answer, and he looked like shit against them last year.
I would say Brock played significantly better against Minnesota than CJ Stroud did. And CJ Stroud has just as many weapons as Brock Purdy does. And so, I think that's an encouraging sign in and of itself.
100%. And I thought he played better than his stats looked in week 1. And I thought he played great last week. So if this continues, maybe we're finding things out about our quarterback, which long-term is better. So that is really good in the sense that you're going to get answers on Brock. It sucks about McCaffrey, but
yes,
we are where we are, and they have to move on with the guys that they have. And the guys that they have, Brian, in this game, I'm not worried. I said this last week, but I'm not worried about the Pats. I wasn't worried about the Rams either. That didn't work out well for me. But this game, the Patriots are absolutely terrible. And
on offense,
we mentioned it on the last show. Matthew Stafford can change some things. And we saw he's going to make plays that can change a game.
And Sean McVay.
Sure, absolutely. One of the top coaches. You have a new coach in Gerard Mayo, who's not an offensive mastermind by the stretch of the imagination. This season for Jacoby Brissett, 42 completions, 368 yards. On the season, the Pats have scored 39 points this year. This year on offense, it's 31st in the league. 739 yards, that's last. 4.2 yards per play, that's 30th. 21 passing first downs, that's 31st. 306 net yards passing. That's not in a game. That's on the season. Their sack percentage is 12.5%. And if you watched any of their games, I mean, Brissett's not going to.
That's why Drake May's not playing.
Right. That's what we were talking about with Fitzy. Yeah. The only reason you could say he's not in the end is because they're afraid he's going to get killed.
Right.
And Brissett may get killed and they may have to put him in. They've only scored 3 offensive TDs. If you can't shut this team down,
right.
I don't know what to tell you.
At home.
And they proved to be scrappy for a couple of weeks. They looked terrible against the Jets, but like you said, it's at home. I don't care if it's a long week for them. They're going across the country. This is a terrible offense. Mm-hmm. The Niners, despite their issues, and I'm going to talk about some of the Niners' issues on defense soon, there should be no, I mean, it's a 10.5 point spread. I don't know if they'll cover that, but they should win this game fairly easily.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, Matthew Stafford, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's going to win games single-handedly on his own at times. And I feel like he did last week. Kyron Williams had a good amount to do with it as well. But I mean, the Patriots, really all they have going for them is Ramondre Stevenson as a runner. But I mean, if you can concentrate, your game plan around just stopping the run and making Jacoby Brissett and the jabronis he has to throw to beat you, I think that's a pretty decent, game plan, especially considering you've got Charvarius Ward, you've got friend of the show, Diamador Lenore, and and Hufunga's back, and I just there's no reason why they can't shut this offense down. And if they don't, then sound the alarm.
Yeah, ring the alarms.
Things are absolutely falling down around them. And so, this is the problem is you don't want to look past this week, because you do have 2 divisional opponents coming up in the Cardinals and the Seahawks. And it is the NFL, and we've seen, I mean, look at the Panthers, beating the Raiders a week after the Raiders beat the Ravens. So it's still the NFL. The other team still gets paid to play. Gerard Mayo is, I think, is going to be a good coach. They just don't have talent. They just don't have talent on the offensive side of the ball. And, they've got a young quarterback that they don't want to get killed. They don't want to give him the David Carr treatment. And I can respect that because, that one season in Houston ruined David Carr's career. And that was his rookie season. So, you don't want to do that with the guy that you drafted 3rd overall. So, they absolutely should not only be able to shut this offense down, but I think the offense shouldn't have very many problems scoring points against this New England defense, which is decent, but again, still not what we're used to from those Bill Belichick teams.
Yeah, and we agree the offense is going to be fine. We're worried about the defense. And Demo told us he just thinks it's growing pains. Mm-hmm. We're going to – obviously, he knows what's going on. He's the starting corner. He's in the room. Yeah. And he's probably right. There's a lot of talent here that are going to get better. He's definitely right. They're going to get better as the season goes on. But the defensive line is going to continue to worry me just because of the
attrition at this point.
Right, attrition and the people we just don't know about. When you get Dre Greenlaw back, it's going to make a huge difference. But right now, yards per play, the Niners are giving up 6.1. That's 30th in the NFL. They've given up 69 points, which is the 12th most. 5 passing TDs, which is the 5th most. Net yards per attempt, 7.3. That's 30th in the NFL. The rushing defense, negative 15.24 EXP, which is expected points against, 30th in the NFL. Only Dallas and the Rams are worse. 3rd down conversions, 52.9%. That's 30th in the NFL. Red zone percentage, 60%. Bottom 3rd in the NFL. In scoring percentage, 43.3%. Bottom 3rd in the NFL. You mentioned to me last show, Al, we may start seeing some replacements. And I'm like, who are you going to put in? Matt Mayoka wrote an article about this today because clearly he's probably listening to the show. He's not.
Absolutely.
But he wrote an article about it today, and he mentioned receiver in terms of just, Ronnie Bell, and maybe they have to get Cowling in or whatever. But 2 spots on defense. The first was Campbell at linebacker. Mm-hmm. And he said Campbell has struggled in pass coverage as an every down linebacker. He's allowed 14 receptions on 16 targets for 149 yards and 1 TD through 3 games. And that was the issue in the Super Bowl when Greenlaw went out with Oren Burks as well. That's not his words. Those are mine. Then Mayoka goes on to say he was also called for a critical pass interference penalty of 25 yards against the Rams. He says the 49ers could consider moving linebacker Curtis Robinson into a more prominent role because Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles is also struggling and D. Winters is banged up.
Yeah.
He also mentions Isaac Yiadom, who surrendered 10 completions on 13 targets for 123 yards and a touchdown and was flagged for 48-yard pass interference penalty. If they believe it's time to make a change, Ronaldo Green would be the person. Obviously, again, you have Ward and you have Demo, where they're not going anywhere. They're lockdown guys. But if you're going to change Adam out, Green would be the person. So linebacker, we'll see. Maybe Green starts to get more snaps. But if you don't start seeing some results, those are, you said, Al, can we make some changes? And I was like, I don't know.
Not a ton,
those are maybe 2 changes you can make.
It's interesting that that Green is the one mentioned again as a rookie. We know famously Kyle Shanahan is not a fan of starting rookies on either side of the ball unless you're Nick Bosa. But because they also have Rocky Sin and they also have Darrell Luter Jr., who's been with the team for a couple of years now. So it's interesting that Green is kind of at the top of that. But I mean, he showed out in the preseason. I mean, he played really well. So I understand that. But I am genuinely, I was excited about that Yiadom signing. I thought that was an underrated signing this offseason. And it certainly seems like, it certainly seems like it is more like the signing of the famous nickel corner that Steve Wilkes wanted. And again, just like yesterday when I forgot Steve Wilkes.
Yeah, why am I forgetting? Isaiah
Oliver, who is on another team now. I love how you put like everything Steve Wilkes.
Everything Steve Wilkes out of your head. You don't know his name. You don't know anybody.
That's how you got to do it, man. That's how you got to do it, right? You just got to wipe that clean. I'm done. So Yeah, I would love. I mean, I would love to see younger guys take over for some of these older guys that are underperforming. I think that's the name of the game, right? We're talking about the next window. You got to see who you have in these young players, and Devondre Campbell is not going to be on this team next year, but Curtis Robinson could, and D Winters could, right? And really, all you're looking for is just adequate play until Dre Greenlaw gets back, right? That's all you're looking for, and right now Campbell's not doing that for you. And so, and to be perfectly honest, we probably could have expected that. Campbell's had down years the last 2 years in Green Bay. There was no reason to think that would be any different this year, a year older at the linebacker position. But, again, they love their vets. So they gave him an opportunity. But yeah, I definitely hope so. I hope that Jacob Cowing starts to see some time over Stonehand's Ronnie Bell.
Same.
Because what are we doing? Like what? I mean, again, you saw Shanahan's reaction on the sideline when Bell dropped that pass. I'm surprised he didn't go out there and just start choking him. Like, you know what I mean? But also, like, who's to blame there? You're the one that A, kept him on the roster, and B, are putting him out in routes over a guy like Jacob Cowing, who you drafted in the 5th round, right? Like, again, stop being so damn stubborn. Like, give these guys an opportunity, show what they can, because right now you're down players. You can't just go with the status quo, right? You're down Debo, you're down CMC, your depth at wide receiver with Ricky Pearsall, also out. Like, you gotta see what you have, because we've seen what Ronnie Bell is, and it's not good. So also, like, give Chris Conley that opportunity. Like, again, like,
I'm surprised
why is Ronnie Bell getting the opportunity? Just punt him into the sun, please. I'm done with him.
That's a great point, actually. We'll, like, if Conley's out there, maybe that's a catch. He's had some big catches for them. It's a really good. I forgot about him for whatever reason, like out of sight, out of mind. But that's a great point. I didn't even think about that with Bell. Like, why the hell isn't Conley maybe getting the run there? But well, maybe Kittle practice limited today on a Wednesday, so maybe he'll be back. That would be huge for them. And I think he'll have a big game if he is. We'll see what happens there. But this should be, again, we said this last week, but it should be a game that the Niners win fairly easily. Do you want to do the score prediction again, so I don't take your score again?
Yes. I'm very excited to see if we have the same score again. But until until they can show me otherwise, I'm no longer predicting 30 or more points again until they show me that they can. So I'm going to say that against this putrid Pats offense, and hopefully with Kittle back, I'm going to say that the 49ers win this game 27-10.
So I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think the Niners are going to kick the shit out of them. I think they're mad. I think they're embarrassed. And I think you're going to see a 38 to, well, you know what? I'll say like 38-17. I'll say the Pats get like a garbage touchdown. Drake May comes in at the end of the game and gets a garbage touchdown. That's what I'll go with. They're going to come out. They're going to be mad. They're going to score points. Christian Gonzalez will probably be on Ayuk.
Yep.
But they have to get him going. So hopefully we'll see him have a better game. But there's enough there for the Niners, especially if Kittle plays, to put up points. And I think they're going to win going away. It could be kind of a Fugazi game because the Pats are so bad. And then we'll see what they're really made of going forward. But this week, Niners fans, enjoy it. The Niners are going to kick the shit out of the Patriots.
Right in the ship.
I hope so. Because if not,
like I said,
we're going to lose their minds. Yeah. Sound the alarms, but we'll be good. All right. Subscribe. Like, this show is not on YouTube. If you're listening on, you're going to be listening on the podcast because it's not on YouTube. But typically all our shows are on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube station. Subscribe to the podcast. We love you guys. Thank you so much. For Brian, I'm Al.
Later.
9-0-3. 1, 2, 3. Hey!
2400 Sports is an Odyssey company.
It takes a lot to prepare for game day as a dedicated fan, and preparing the perfect tailgate meal might be most important of all. That's why Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise is the MVP. Hellmann's Mayonnaise is the secret to bring out the rich and creamy taste to all your game day dishes, from buffalo chicken dip to your favorite sub sandwich and everything in between. So give it a try, and mayo game day be delicious with Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise. Shop at your local Walmart, Kroger, or grocery store, and add some extra deliciousness to your game day dishes this football season.